Good evening and welcome to Daily Bible Kids. We've been getting through Leviticus, which is where God is setting the rules of what the chosen people can eat, what they can't eat, what they got to do when it comes to sacrifices, what's clean and unclean, ceremonially clean and unclean. And then we just finished up yesterday on what to do about. Actually, you tell me. What did we talk? Go ahead.
We spoke about like if you had a disease, and if it kept on spreading throughout your body, you'd be ceremonially unclean.
Yep. Okay. That's one. You had your hand up next. Actually, he did after her.
Fighting you.
Go ahead.
And,
What else we talked about yesterday?
and if they had that disease,
She already said that. What else?
he had to go to Aaron and get healed.
And what else? Okay, so we got skin disease.
There was skin disease.
If your
Dang it,
clothes had the disease, I got the disease. If your
What was it though?
clothes were
It wasn't just clothes. It was clothes, leather, houses. What was it?
Mold.
Mildew. Yes.
Mildew.
Good.
That's the word.
All right.
Was there another one?
There was. So I was trying to. There's
Was it
this
like
skin disease, treatment of contaminated
Hair disease.
houses.
Wasn't it like hair disease or something?
No, the
that was
hair
with
turned
the-
white around the
Yeah.
disease.
Yeah, but still dealing with the disease.
Yeah.
Oh, one was a skin disease and one was a boil and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so moving on. We are going to read Leviticus chapters 15, 16, and 17. So today, let's see, I think it's just, okay. So, along with the rashes, the skin disease, the mildew, now this chapter 15 is going to be talking about bodily discharges.
What's that?
Okay, so break it down. What is a discharge?
If like
Do
you
you remember?
do
Or how you learn.
something that's not right.
No, discharge. Something that's
Fine.
being released. Kind of like when you're discharged from a hospital or discharged from the army, it's a release.
You can leave.
Okay? So bodily discharge would be
Your body's released.
releasing something, right?
For
Okay,
leave.
usually it deals with like blood, fluids,
Yeah, I would
spit,
say bodily
um,
fluids.
reproductive fluids.
Fluid.
Okay, so, chapter 15. The Lord said to Moses and Aaron, "Give the following instructions to the people of Israel. Any man who has a bodily discharge is ceremonially unclean. This defilement is caused by his discharge, whether the discharge continues or stops. In either case, the man is unclean. Any bed on which the man with the discharge lies, and anything on which he sits, will be ceremonially unclean. So if you touch the man's bed, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. If you sit where the man with the discharge has sat, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. If you touch the man with the discharge, you must wash your clothes, bathe yourself in water, and you'll remain unclean until
Evening.
evening. If the man spits on you, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you'll remain unclean until the evening. Any saddle blanket on which the man rides will be ceremonially unclean. If you touch anything that was under the man, you will be unclean until evening. You must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you'll remain unclean until evening. If the man touches you without first rinsing his hands, you must wash your clothes, bathe yourself in water, and remain
Until
unclean until evening. Any clay pot the man touches, same thing. When the man with the discharge is healed, he must count off 7 days for the period of purification. Then he must wash his clothes, bathe himself in fresh water, and he will be ceremonially clean. On the 8th day, he must get 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons and come before the Lord at the entrance of the tabernacle and give his offerings to the priest. The priest will offer one bird for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. Through this process, The priest will purify the man before the Lord for his discharge. Whenever a man has little adult thing here, but whenever a man has an emission of semen, he must bathe his entire body in water, and he will remain ceremonially unclean until the next evening. Any clothing or leather with semen on it must be washed with water, and it will remain unclean until evening. After a man and a woman has had sexual intercourse, they must each bathe in water, and they will remain unclean until the next evening. Whenever a woman has her menstrual period, she will be ceremonially unclean for 7 days, which is usually how long a woman's menstrual cycle lasts. Lost my place here. For 7 days. Anyone who touches her during that time will be unclean until evening. Anything on which the woman lies or sits during the time of her period will be unclean. If any of you touch her bed, you must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. If you touch any object she has sat on, you will remain unclean. You must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. This includes her bed or any other object she has sat on. You will be unclean until evening if you touch it. If a man has sexual intercourse with her and her blood touches him, her menstrual impurity will be transmitted to him. He will remain unclean for 7 days, and any bed on which he lies will be unclean. If a woman has a flow of blood for many days that is unrelated to her menstrual period, or if the blood continues beyond the normal period, she is ceremonially unclean. As during her menstrual period, the woman will be unclean as long as the discharge continues. Any bed she lies on and any object she sits on during that time will be unclean, just as during her normal menstrual period. If any of you touches these things, you will be ceremonially unclean. You must wash your clothes and bathe yourself in water, and you will remain unclean until evening. When the woman's bleeding stops, she must count off 7 days. Then she will be ceremonially clean. On the 8th day, she must bring 2 turtle doves and 2 young pigeons and present them to the priest at the entrance of the tabernacle. The priest will offer one for a sin offering and the other for a burnt offering. Through this process, the priest will purify her before the Lord for the ceremonial impurity caused by her bleeding. Okay, I gotta stop there for a second. This part I don't understand why, because, and of course, I'm always going to question God. Like, they say, don't question God. Well, sorry, but God created us to question everything, okay? So, my question would be the fact that, so if the woman is having her period, which is a natural thing that God has created her to do, I don't understand how that's a sin that she has to sacrifice and whatnot, because if it's God's creation is never a sin, so why, that part it doesn't click. And there's quite a few of that in the Bible that I cannot explain, but I can do the best I can, okay? But that part really bothers me, is the fact that he's saying that she's unclean, but she's got to do a sin offering, but I don't understand how that's a sin, if God is the one, because it says the priest will offer one for a sin offering. I don't understand how it's a sin at this time for a woman to have her period when it's a natural thing that God has created. That would say that God created that as a sin. See, it doesn't fit in my mind, you know? So I'm going to have to ask our pastor about that and figure that one out. Anyways, so this is how you will guard the people of Israel from ceremonial uncleanliness. Otherwise they would die, for their impurity would defile my tabernacle that stands among them. These are the instructions for dealing with anyone who has a bodily discharge, a man who is unclean because of his emissions of semen, or a woman during her menstrual period. It applies to any man or woman who has a bodily discharge, and to a man who has sexual intercourse with a woman who is ceremonially unclean. Besides what I just said, any questions on that chapter? Yes. Ladies first.
Is it gonna have ceremonially unclean and clean in it a lot?
That was just not, if you're talking about through the Bible, no. This is,
I'm just talking about in Leviticus.
in Leviticus. A lot of it, yes, but I don't think it's gonna be like that all the way through, because like the next one we're talking about a day of atonement. So, what?
So, if this ceremony unclean until evening, what if it's already evening? Do they just wait for tomorrow
If it's already evening, then
or the next day?
How do you say no?
they haven't said that. So I don't have an answer for
Because
it.
usually the sun setting is evening.
What do you think? What do you think?
Yeah.
What do you
Like-
think?
Like this, it would mean like this time would be,
Sunset.
even though there's some daylight, it's still evening. It's a twilight
Yeah.
kind of thing. As for a sin that's already happened, I would probably bet it would be till the next evening.
Maybe.
Right. So,
I don't know if it would be like till the next, like until you wake up, or
and nobody online has got any questions. So, chapter 16, a day of atonement. Now, I know that word is new to you, and I want to make sure.
I don't know what it means.
Yeah, but little 7-year-old does not.
Toad.
Atonement.
Atonement.
So I want to give you the exact definitions. I don't want to screw this up.
Atone.
Well, it's not hard to
To a 7-year-old, yes, it is. Just a little bit. Okay.
Atone.
Okay.
Day of atonement. A day where you.
Okay, so when you do something wrong, when you do something wrong to him, what's the first thing you do? What's the very first thing? Let's say you accidentally hurt him. What's the first thing you do?
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's a type of atonement. But usually at the same time, do you remember the 3 steps of sorry?
Yeah.
What?
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. How can I make it up
You
to
missed
you?
one.
No,
Oh wait. I'm sorry.
It was my fault.
My
It's
fault.
my fault.
What
How
can
What
I
can I
make
do
it
to
up?
make it better?
Okay,
Right?
make it
Yes.
better.
Okay, that part right there. What can I do to make it better? That's atonement, in a way. Like a reparation for a wrong or injury, a reconcilement of God and humankind through Jesus Christ. That's
There is no
definitions.
bad
Okay, so
people.
atonement. The Lord spoke to Moses after the death of Aaron's 2 sons, who died after they entered the Lord's presence and burned the wrong kind of fire before him. The Lord said to Moses, "Warn your brother Aaron not to enter the most holy place behind the inner curtain whenever he chooses. If he does, he will die. For the ark's cover, the place of atonement, is there, and I myself am present in the cloud above the atonement cover. When Aaron enters the sanctuary area, he must follow these instructions fully. He must bring a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He must put on his linen tunic and the linen undergarments worn next to his body, his underwear. He must tie the linen sash around his waist and put the linen turban on his head. These are the sacred garments, so he must bathe himself in water before he puts them on. Aaron must take from the community of Israel 2 male goats for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. Aaron will present his own bull as a sin offering to purify himself and his family, making them right with the Lord. Then he must take 2 male goats and present them to the Lord at the entrance of the tabernacle. Harley, please stop. He is to cast sacred lots to determine which goat will be reserved as an offering to the Lord and which will carry the sins of the people to the wilderness of Azazel. Azazel? Aaron will then present as a sin offering the goat chosen by Lot for the Lord. The other goat, now in life you're going to hear this term, scapegoat. Okay? This is where that term comes from. The other goat, the scapegoat, chosen by Lot to be sent away, will be kept alive, standing before the Lord. When it is sent away to Azazel in the wilderness, the people will be purified and made right with the Lord. Aaron will present his own bull as a sin offering to purify himself and his family, making them right with the Lord. After he has slaughtered the bull as a sin offering, he will fill an incense burner with burning coals from the altar that stands before the Lord. Then he will take 2 handfuls of fragrant powdered incense and will carry the burner and the incense behind the inner curtain. There in the Lord's presence he will put the incense on the burning coals so that a cloud of incense will rise over the ark's cover, the place of atonement, that rests on the ark of the covenant. If he follows these instructions, he will not die. Then he must take some of the blood of the bull, dip his finger in it, and sprinkle it on the east side of the atonement cover. He must sprinkle blood 7 times with his finger in front of the atonement cover. Falling asleep? Then Aaron must slaughter the first goat as a sin offering for the people to carry its blood behind the inner curtain. There, he will sprinkle the goat's blood over the atonement cover and in front of it, just as he did with the bull's blood. Through this process, he will purify the most holy place, and will do the same for the entire tabernacle, because of the defiling sin and rebellion of the Israelites. No one else is allowed inside the tabernacle when Aaron enters it for the purification ceremony in the most holy place. No one may enter until he comes out again, purifying it. After purifying himself, his family, and all the congregation of Israel, making them right with the Lord. Then Aaron will come out to purify the altar that stands before the Lord. He will do this by taking some of the blood from the bull and the goat and putting it on each of the horns of the altar. Then he must sprinkle the blood with his finger 7 times over the altar. In this way, he will cleanse it from Israel's defilement and make it holy. When Aaron has finished purifying the most holy place, and the tabernacle, and the altar, he must present the live goat. He will lay, now check this out, he will lay both of his hands on the goat's head and confess over it all the wickedness, rebellion, and sins of the people of Israel. So, okay, imagine this, Colin, or all of you. You got this goat, right?
Can I do the land?
And, got this goat, and he's got to put both of his hands on the goat's head. Colin, please stay awake. Puts both of his hands on the goat's head and talks to the goat. All of Israel's sins, rebellions, all that stuff, to this goat. Okay?
That's one special goat.
Now, put his hands on the goat's head and confess the sins of the people of Israel. In this way, he will transfer all the people's sins to the head of the goat. Okay? Then, a man specially chosen for the task will drive the goat into the wilderness. As the goat goes into the wilderness, it will carry all the people's sin upon itself to a desolate land. That's exactly what Jesus did. When he was on the cross, he took everybody's sins, past, present, future of earth, everybody's sins up on that cross, just as this goat did. Okay? When Aaron goes back to the tabernacle, he must take off the linen garments he was wearing when he entered the most holy place, and he must leave the garments there. Then he must bathe himself with water in a sacred place, put on his regular garments, and go out to sacrifice a burnt offering for himself and a burnt offering for the people. Through this process, he will purify himself and the people, making them right with the Lord. He must then burn all the fat of the sin offering on the altar. The man chosen to drive the scapegoat into the wilderness of Azazel must wash his clothes and bathe himself in water. Then he may return to the camp. The bull and the goat present at the sin offering, whose blood Aaron takes into the most holy place for the purification ceremony, will be carried outside the camp. The animal's hides, internal organs, the dung, all to be burned. The man who burns them must wash his clothes and bathe himself in water before returning to camp. On the 10th day of the appointed month in early autumn, you must deny yourselves. Neither native-born Israelites nor foreigners living among you may do any kind of work. This is a permanent law for you. On that day, offerings of purification will be made for you, and you will be purified in the Lord's presence from all of your sins. It will be a Sabbath day of complete rest for you, and you must deny yourselves. This is a permanent law for you. That's when we get later on, or that's when we got keep this Sabbath day holy. This is a reminder because they've already been given the law. Yeah, we got to that, right? Yeah, we got to that. So they already knew this.
On the mountain.
So God is basically having to remind them. Okay? They already knew this. In the future generations, the purification ceremony will be performed by the priest who has been anointed and ordained to serve as high priest in the place of his ancestor Aaron. Now, a lot of times, I don't know if it says it in here, or if we already got through it, but anytime the priest went into that tabernacle, and if he wasn't right, what happened to him?
He died.
And nobody can enter the tabernacle if that priest is in there. Even though he's dead, he's still in there. Okay? So you can't enter. So they had to tie a rope around the priest's ankles, or at least one of the ankles. The priest had bells. Okay? So that they knew that the priest, every time he's moving around and he's talking to God and presented and whatnot, they hear these bells jingle. And the bells stopped. They got worried. And if they didn't hear anything from that priest, they knew he done messed up and he probably died. And so instead of going in there getting that dead body, they would take that rope that's around his ankle and drag him out of that tabernacle. What?
What if he was burned to ashes?
No, they drop down and he just drop and die. He didn't.
Oh,
God didn't say you're going to burn to ashes. It just says you will die. So more than likely, you die.
Yeah, just
Okay. What?
So,
Usually questions are at the end, but that's
okay.
up. We're almost there at the end here. But literally, this is a permanent law for you, for the future generations' purification ceremony. We just got through that. He will put on the holy linen garments and purify the most holy place, the tabernacle, the altar, the priests, and the entire congregation. This is a permanent law for you to purify the people of Israel from their sins, making them right with the Lord once each year. Moses followed all the Colin, please stop. Moses followed all these instructions exactly as the Lord had commanded him. Now, any questions on that chapter? What?
So if it was a permanent law, then how come people still work on Sundays?
After Jesus was here, the guys asked him, so are we still supposed to follow all the laws of Moses and whatnot? You'll learn later on that Jesus tells them that if you live by the law, you're going to die by the law. I am here to replace that law. Okay? So that's why we're not following the Old Testament laws, because we have Jesus.
I got a conspiracy theory. That land they sent to the woods.
The goat?
Yeah, the goat. Make the goat of Jesus.
Huh?
For a goat like Jesus.
The goat that they sent off, I already explained that it was just like whenever Jesus was on the cross and took everybody's sins, past, present, future, of earth and all creation. Same thing happened with that goat. The goat took all the sins, the same way as Jesus, but the goat was first. Okay? Any other questions? It looks like no questions online. Last chapter, chapter 17. And this one's really quick. This is prohibition. Now, what's prohibition? Prohibiting. What's prohibiting?
Not allowed something to do something.
Okay. So prohibition against eating blood. Now this is one of my biggest things that Like whenever I have like steak or meat, I make sure it's all the way done. I really don't like blood in my food like that. Colin, please. We're almost done, right? The Lord said to Moses, "Give the following instructions to Aaron and his sons and all the people of Israel. This is what the Lord has commanded. If any native Israelite sacrifices a bull or a lamb or a goat anywhere inside or outside the camp, instead of bringing it to the entrance of the tabernacle to present it as an offering to the Lord, that person will be as guilty as a murderer. Such a person has shed blood and will be cut off from the community." The purpose of this rule is to stop the Israelites from sacrificing animals in the open fields. It will ensure that they bring their sacrifices to the priest at the entrance of the tabernacle so he can present them to the Lord as peace offerings. Then the priest will be able to splatter the blood against the Lord's altar and the entrance of the tabernacle, and he will burn the fat as a pleasing aroma to the Lord. The people must no longer be unfaithful to the Lord by offering sacrifices to the goat idols. This is a permanent law for them, to be observed from generation to generation. Give them this command as well. If any native Israelite or foreigner living among you offers a burnt offering or a sacrifice, but does not bring it to the entrance of the tabernacle to offer it to the Lord, that person will be cut off from the community. And if any native Israelite or foreigner living among you eats or drinks blood in any form, I will turn against that person and cut them off from the community of your people. For the life of the body is in its blood. Say that again. The life of the body is in its blood. DNA. Okay? I have given you the blood on the altar to purify you. Colin. To purify you. Making you right with the Lord. It is the blood given in exchange for a life that makes purification possible. That is why I have said to the people of Israel, you must never eat or drink blood. Neither you nor your foreigners living among you. Don't be vampires. And if any native Israelites or foreigners living among you goes hunting and kills an animal or bird that is approved for eating, he must drain its blood and cover it with earth. The life of every creature is in its blood. That is why I have said to the people of Israel, you must never eat or drink blood, for the life of any creature is in its blood. So, whoever consumes blood will be cut off from the community. And if any native-born Israelite or foreigner eats the meat of an animal that died naturally or was torn up by wild animals, they must wash their clothes and bathe themselves in water. They will remain ceremonially unclean until evening, but then they will be clean. But if they do not wash their clothes and bathe themselves, they will be punished for their sin. Any questions? Wow.
So, what if somebody was in a fight with somebody and accidentally drank their own blood?
It was not intentional, right? It was an accident that you got blood in your mouth.
Okay.
Alright.
And
But you did not drink it, you did not eat it. It was an accident, more likely you're gonna go wash your mouth out.
What if you got hit, like fighting and you got hit to the point where blood spewed out of your mouth?
Basically what I just said to Carly.
Okay.
I got
So,
another question.
what?
So vampires were cut off from the community of God?
Okay, Carly.
I don't think vampires were real or are real.
Hypothetically, if you're gonna dive into that conversation, vampires are forms of from Satan, evil, demons, all that, right?
Uh.
But the same time, if they were real, they'd still be breaking God's rules. But God would not create them, right? Okay. So we don't have to deal with that.
So, hypothetically, if there were vampires, God could snap them away from existence because you don't like them?
That
When it comes to destroying a whole... Okay.
technically yes.
If we're still talking about if vampires are real, he has the power to destroy them, but he is not. Because it deals with the same concept of like demons and spirits and other creatures that's here on earth that's bigger, and whereas you don't see God destroying them, he's allowing life to play out. He's already destroyed a whole species once when it came to the flood. Okay, that's the only time he decided to restart and destroy off a whole species. Okay? But you also got to remember, everything that's created is God's creation, God's work. Okay? Except for, well, I mean, we have that abomination of the hybrids of the Nephilims and all that, but